Recreation on August 30th, 2023. No need to take a look at any claims right now or any previous minutes for meetings. We're just going to go ahead and call the roll. So we'll begin with Vice President Jill Pack.
Here.
Secretary John Salowitz.
Here.
Ryan Cambridge.
Here.
Corley Palmer.
Yeah.
Kimberly Lane.
Here.
And Chris Barksdale.
Here.
Okay, all seven of us are here tonight, and we'll get right down to business. The first item in the special meeting is the rail trail widening phase 2 change order. And you've been briefed on what this is, but Jared's going to go ahead and explain it further from the top. So, Jared.
Thank you, John. Good evening, Park Board, and thank you for this opportunity to meet and discuss this time-sensitive item. Your consideration of the change order this evening will allow the contractor to keep moving and continue on the project without having delays, which may cost remobilization and demobilization fees later down the road. So want to keep them moving and making progress in our parks. The 4 items before you this evening that were in the materials distributed to you will be bundled into the 10th change order for this project. The first item of which are the concrete collars, which will adjoin the manholes along the rail trail. So these collars were a request of the Department of Public Works, and they simply just provide a more fortified structure around those circular manholes. When you're dealing with that steel plate and trying to pave around it, sometimes only a crescent moon of that manhole will be in the rail trail, and that could cause that asphalt to deteriorate quicker as it tries to grab to that surface. So this will alleviate that, and it'll have a nice solid foundation to grip onto. We have one of those within the phase 1 widening, and there's a couple more in our phase 2. So a simple change order for that would be above the original scope of the contract. And so the first item for the concrete collars on the manholes would be $1,632.62. The second item for your consideration this evening are the undercuts between Bloor Lane and Mulberry Tunnel. Going to pull up some images here while we're discussing this. So just like with phase 1, we understand that there are soft spots along our rail trail. There is a large portion of our community that has drainage that leads to the rail trail, and we've all seen the trail flood throughout the years. So no surprise that there would be these soft spots. As you'll recall, we had several within phase 1 as well as the northern expansion. So unfortunately, this is our largest to date, but fortunately we were prepared for this, and this large increase would still be within our original identified contingency. So this image on the screen is the section between Bloor and Mulberry. It has not been excavated yet. So the asphalt is failing just from the truck traffic that's driving over it. And that's not completely unique, but as we look at the other photos, you can see the large indents. And that is the former subgrade of the trail failing and compacting further into the earth. So to remedy this and ensure that we have a trail in this segment that's going to provide adequate longevity and be able to maintain its user load, the solution is to undercut that area deeper and add more stone. And since this is such a long stretch of trail, we are proposing to excavate 19 inches down, add a geotextile grid. So that grid will go under the stone, and it kind of just acts as a netting to help it get its footing so the stone can do its job. We will add 16 inches of stone, and then just like all the rest of the trail, it'll match up with those grades and be ready for asphalt. So because this is such a large stretch, the total for these undercuts would be $191,518.69. The third item are the storm pipes and concrete that are right outside Town Hall here. So as you exit the Town Hall to access the rail trail, there's that sidewalk that abuts with our asphalt trail. So we were able to, through our regular inspections of the project, identify that area and save it from excavation. So there was no need in destroying that concrete or changing out those storm pipes. So that will actually offer the project an $11,708.05 credit. And finally, there is a borrow adjustment for phase 2. So borrow is just materials needed to complete the trail. There was a discrepancy in what was bid as well as what was needed with the tickets that they received. So this borrow adjustment would be for $28,720. I'll mention that This borrow calculation was also the flip side of a coin where we just received $100,000 credit for excavation and Common X not required for the project. So while taking a hit on our borrow line, we received $75,000 in credit after it's all said and done for those two items. So with these four items together, the total change order considered for tonight is $210,163.26. With the various credits we've received throughout the project, including removing the small dog side of the project, as well as that credit I just mentioned, this increase would bring our change orders to date to $105,637.73, taking the total project to $4,064,637.73, or 2.67% above our original bid. So as we build these budgets, we always anticipate a 10% to 20% contingency. With this project, we were able to identify funds for 10% of that contingency. So knock on wood, everything moving forward continues to go well. We would still be below that 10% built-in contingency. So the change order request for tonight to keep the project rolling and utilize existing funds that are allocated would be for $210,163.26. I'm happy to answer any questions related to all that information.
Anybody have anything for Jared? So I just think we need to make clear that this is part of our original budgeted amount for this. We're not asking for an additional appropriation. This is something that's in the original scope of work.
We have funds allocated to continue this work. That brings up a good point about the $300,000 additional appropriation request that's before town council. So that has been continued to the next meeting, which is on September 5th. Should we secure those funds, this project will move on just as scoped and will wrap up this year. Should that not be approved, we will have to take a look and leave a portion of this project unpaved and closed to the public until we can allocate funding next year. So,
okay, we'll get into all that in just a couple of minutes, but right now let's consider the change orders that bring us to $105,637 after the credits that we've received from $210,163. Do we have a motion to accept the four change orders that are going to add $105,000 to the cost? So moved. We have Ryan Cambridge make a motion. Anybody want a second?
A second.
Chris Barksdale seconds. Let's take a vote. Jill Pack.
Aye.
John Sadowitz.
Aye.
Ryan Cambridge. Aye. Orly Palmer.
Aye.
Kimberly Lane.
Aye.
Chris Barksdale.
Aye.
I say aye as well, making it unanimous. All right, the next item on our short agenda tonight is a discussion of that additional appropriation. And Jared has written a letter of support to the town council. Jared, would you like to tell us about that?
yes, so within the 2022 budget, we had resources allocated to complete the project, its entirety plus that 10% contingency I mentioned. Unfortunately, between the 2023 budget, there was several dozen funds that were not allocated with their expenditures. The majority of those were corrected in February, our pickleball courts being one of those. But our rail trail was not funded through those appropriations at the beginning of the year. So we've been working with council to bring that on the agenda and discuss that with them. The importance of those allocations to finish out this project as originally scoped. So I'll read my letter to the councilors. On behalf of the Town of Zionsville Parks and Recreation Department and Board of Parks and Recreation, it is our responsibility to champion the priorities and initiatives of the community as it pertains to green spaces, recreational opportunities, and wellness. The Big Four Rail Trail is the central spine of Zionsville's trail and pathway system and one of the most utilized assets in our park system. It provides an alternative to vehicular and roadside travel and connects many community institutions, parks, and neighborhoods. In recent years, the trail has expanded nearly 2 miles, first with the southern expansion from Starkey Avenue to Zionsville Road, providing access to Overly Warman Park and the Von Terra subdivision. And last fall, the northern expansion created connection opportunities with Hampshire subdivision, Trailside Elementary, and the Whitestown Rail Trail segment. Through grant opportunities and local bond investment, The Park Board and Parks Department have resources available to not only complete these expansion projects, but also prioritize the widening and improvement of the existing portions of the trail. The bundling of these efforts has provided significant cost savings to the taxpayer and minimized disruptions to our community. This investment in our rail trail comes at a time when existing segments are nearing the end of life and require remediation to provide a safe, accessible surface for users. This accessible route is especially critical as our students return to school this fall and wish to utilize the trail for access to Pleasant View Elementary, Zionsville Middle School, and Zionsville Community High School. Beyond providing a safe route to school this fall and next school year, completion of phase 2 of the widening project will allow for a single closure event in our community. Each year, dozens of nonprofits and community organizations utilize the rail trail to conduct public running events to celebrate life, seasonal festivities, and fundraise for their philanthropic missions. The rail trail is a premier route as it avoids road closures, hosts basic amenities, and creates an easy to follow route. As we experienced with the Southern Rail Trail expansion and the Zionsville Golf Course cart path paving projects, spring in central Indiana can be unpredictable, and poor draining soils can delay paving operations long after temperatures would allow for asphalt. The delay this fall could result in the central portion of our trail being closed throughout next summer and potentially impacting dozens of community-held special events. Further, we anticipate increased pedestrian and cyclist traffic in 2024 as we welcome visitors and neighbors from the Whitestown segments of our regional Big Four corridor. The Park Board and our community have prioritized this project in our park system and support the utilization of funds from the Non-Reverting Capital Fund, Fund 403, to see its completion. At the time of this memo, the balance of 403 is $651,709.07, and the request for $300,000 as an additional appropriation will ensure the completion of this project while leaving cash reserves available for future park system improvements. Approval of this additional appropriation will avoid any penalties associated with demobilization and remobilization costs, saving the town tens of thousands of dollars in unnecessary fees. It is our hope that council will grant this additional appropriation request so the Parks Department may complete the project as originally proposed, resulting in one singular closure event for our community, significant cost savings, and a complete rail trail corridor by year end to allow our pedestrians, cyclists, and students safe travel along this public trail.
All right. Anybody have any comments on that letter that Jared is going to write?
Very well written.
Very well written.
I think it covers things very well and also points out that this is coming from Fund 403, which is not the general fund, which is a dedicated Parks Department fund. And, you know, we're going through this additional step because that's what the charter says we need to do, but it, you know, is holding us back from completing the trail in a timely fashion. Now, I do believe that as a Parks Board, we shouldn't be telling other boards what to do, especially the town council. But I think what we can do is support our superintendent in having a voice in that process. I think it's quite appropriate that he does have a voice in that process. So what I'm proposing tonight is that we consider a letter that's going to go into that packet to the town council. I know that you probably have read this, but I'm going to go ahead and read it again. Dear Zionsville Town Councilors, we the undersigned members of the Zionsville Board of Parks and Recreation write this note as a supplement to a letter that you will receive from Jared Logsdon, Superintendent of Parks and Recreation. We appreciate, support, and join in Jared's unwavering advocacy on behalf of the Zionsville Parks and Recreation Department and on behalf of the Zionsville community that utilizes the Big Four Trail. We encourage you to please give sincere consideration to Jared's thoughts as he has outlined them in his letter and vote to approve the additional appropriation to complete the rail trail corridor in a timely and cost-effective manner for the safety and benefit of our community. Are there any questions or comments on that letter?
No, I think the letter is well worded, both the park board message as well as Jared's. You know, and I think, to be honest, there's, you know, no good reason to me to delay the project. I think it would be fiscally irresponsible to incur remobilization costs when we know we're going to complete the project anyway. We're certainly not going to leave it like it is. I also think, as someone who lives near that trail and got to sort of see the construction of the first phase when it was quote unquote closed for construction, just as it is now, there are lots of people who continue to use it. So I think there's a strong argument that can be made for that as an attractive nuisance and as such a liability for the town also should someone get hurt. So I think the more quickly we can wrap that up, the better it is for the project and the less liability the town takes on also.
Anybody else? Okay, with that being said, then, do I have a motion to approve this letter supporting Jared's memo to the town council?
I'll make a motion to approve.
John Salowitz makes a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Jill Pack seconds. Let's take a vote on that. Jill Pack.
Aye.
John Salowitz.
Aye.
Ryan Cambridge.
Aye.
Corley Palmer. Kimberly Lane. Chris Barksdale.
Aye.
I say aye as well. Now, we're all going to have a chance to sign this and check next to our names how we voted. So let's make sure we do that before we leave tonight. And one other item that has come up in the last day or two concerns the Carpenter bond claims. There are a couple of costs associated with getting that bond money into our account to purchase the Carpenter Nature Preserve. And Amy Nooning is going to explain what is involved there.
Sure. Well, the bond closed yesterday, so everything went through fine. The town, I believe, has the funds currently. Part of the cost of the bond is issuance costs, which is financial and legal costs. Those are usually paid when a bond is closed. So Cindy has sent over 3 invoices for those costs for the board to consider, and if you so choose, approve so that those can be paid out. And I believe they will appear on your claims docket at your next meeting.
And they'll be paid from the bond proceeds.
They will be paid from the bond proceeds, yes.
And this bond was issued by the Indiana Bond Bank. And we are the first project of the Indiana Bond Bank. And I can tell you that I have talked with people associated with that who are very pleased that their first project is a park, especially this particular park. I think there's broad support for it, not just in Zionsville, but it has a much wider audience. So I think that's great. All right. Would anyone like to make a motion to accept the claims as Amy has explained them? Corley Palmer makes a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Ryan Cambridge seconds. Jill Pack.
Aye.
John Salowitz.
Aye.
Ryan Cambridge.
Aye.
Corley Palmer.
Aye.
Kimberly Lane.
Aye.
Chris Barksdale.
Aye.
And I make it unanimous. That is the extent of our agenda tonight. Anybody have anything to say about any of these items on our agenda before we wrap it up?
Nope.
In that case, do I have a move that we adjourn?
I'll make a motion we adjourn.
John Salowitz makes a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Kimberly Lane seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, that's it. Thanks, everybody. The next full meeting will be September 13th. And please make sure you sign the document that Amy has for us to sign before you leave the room. Thank you.
Thank you.